like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Hi, I'm John Mallows. Welcome to this live edition of Connect With Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Today you can call in. We're live from 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning here. 1 full hour. That would be 60 minutes of your time. 436 MeTV option 11. Do turn down the sound if you call in. You won't believe who our guest is today. A first-time appearance. We're back with our program in just a moment. Welcome back to the program here on Connect With Me. We are live here 1 hour, 10 to 11 o'clock here in the morning on Comcast channel 187, 43.6. And I'm going to push the telephone number numerous times today. 436 MeTV option 11. Do turn down the sound if you call in. And the guest today has not been on this program before, a first-time appearance. And I got to tell you something. I've always said this about him. He acts tough, he talks tough, and let me tell you something, my friends, he is tough, and he should be in the position that he's in. And yesterday, he held a news conference talking about a gang crackdown, and that's no joke. That's not a laughing matter, because we do have a gang problem, have had for many years here in the city of Fresno. And the news conference was, they confiscated numerous guns, seized weapons, handguns, assault rifles. Let's take you to the first photo right there, courtesy of the Fresno Bee. That's Police Chief Jerry Dyer of Fresno. Law enforcement's been targeting gangs for the last 28 days in this area, during which time they arrested some 30 gang members, collected up to 70 guns. Many of them assault rifles, as I said, like AR-15s. In some cases, these guns were handmade. Do you hear what I said? Handmade. Several handguns were also confiscated. This was a joint effort by Magic and the Violent Crime Impact Team, I believe. But Chief Dyer will clear all that up today when we talk to him about it. Live in our studio right now, his first appearance here on Connect With Me is Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer. He is here to take your phone calls and to talk about the gang problem here in Fresno and many other topics that you may or may not want to talk about. 436 MeTV option 11. If you do call in, turn down the sound. Today we are live from 10 to 11, 1 hour here on Connect With Me. Back in just a moment.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Back here on the program here on Connect With Me. Remember the telephone number at 436 MeTV option 11. If you do call in, please turn down the sound. We have Chief Dyer in the building today. First time appearance. Good to see you, Chief. How are you?
Good to see you again.
I'm glad
John.
You're here.
Everything
okay?
It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, good. So before we get into what happened yesterday at the news conference, officer-involved shooting last night. Tell us what happened.
Well, we responded to a 911 call about 10 o'clock last night, and it was two brothers that were fighting, and ultimately one of those armed himself with a large kitchen carving knife. When the officers got there, the suspect was standing over his brother with that knife and kept advancing on him and had made a statement, God forgive me for what I'm about to do. We had every reason to believe he was going to take his brother's life, and so the officers fired their weapons.
You know, it seems like, Chief Dyer, that we see these types of incidents more often than not, especially lately. You know, I don't even know that you can answer this question, but it pops into my head. does it seem like they're happening more now than they did years ago? And why? Is it a drug issue? Is it a domestic issue? What's going on?
I don't know that they're happening any more than they used to. Certainly, we have more media today than we've ever had, so those incidents are more widely known. But I do know that we have a problem in our community with methamphetamine and addiction and mental health issues, and a lot of people that are out that are hopeless, and people that are doing desperate things. And then ultimately we're the ones that are called to try to calm those situations. And unfortunately, force is oftentimes used by the officers in order to have to calm those situations.
Now, you've been on the force how long? How many years? 30 plus years?
35 years.
35 years as an officer, and now chief, of course, chief of police since 2001?
Yes.
Hey, good memory, huh?
Yeah.
Not bad for an old guy.
13 years ago.
So at what point, and clear this up because I hear this all the time, at what point does an officer, like the situation last night, at what point does an officer decide, hey, I've got to pull a weapon, I've got to use it to save a life?
Well, whenever that officer believes that their life or the life of another is in jeopardy, the officer at that point has to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to use deadly force and or what level of force. And it doesn't allow the officer to have a lot of time to make those types of split-second decisions.
It's less than a second, isn't it?
In
most cases?
In many cases, the officer has very minimal time to make that decision, which is why training is so important, and certainly the officer's experience plays a key role in that as well. And then they're presented with the facts as they know them at the time. And unfortunately, officers get second-guessed after the fact by people that have all the facts, and they may not have those facts presented to them at the time that they make that decision.
It's almost like officiating a football game or a Major League Baseball game. Now we have these cameras, these replay cameras. Well, fine and dandy, but you weren't there at the instant that call had to be made.
Yeah,
isn't it very similar?
That's a really good comparison, because when we're watching a football game, we have one view, one angle.
Right.
And then when you see the instant replay, there'll be 4 or 5 different angles. Well, the officer has one angle, one view, and that's his or her perception at the time they make that decision to use deadly force.
Yeah. Now, when an officer is on duty and he's been on the force for many years, how important is it for that officer, be it female or male, it doesn't make any difference, to stay in training, to stay in shape, and to stay sharp, not only with himself or herself, but with the weapon and knowing how to use it, practicing, your reflexes and all that? Because, you've been on the force for 10, 15 years, your body starts to age, you have to keep in shape, keep practicing, right?
Well, we call that perishable skills training, because a lot of these skills that our officers use, they perish with time.
Yeah.
Which is why we train frequently, and we train our officers in a realistic scenario type atmosphere that they're going to be facing out when they're on a call. And we want it to be stress induced so that they can respond appropriately. We don't want our officers to underreact or overreact. We want them to respond appropriately, given the training that they're provided.
Do they have to go once a week to the range? Or
Well, we have, depending on the type of training, 3 times a year that they have to go out for range, either qualification or some type of range shooting. And then then there's additional training on top of that, whether it's emergency vehicle operation course, force ops and simulators, various other types of training that they're provided, mandated by the state. So we provide our officers a lot of training during the course of their career.
You think this is the best police force in the state, Fresno?
Well, I have my personal opinion, and yes, I do. I believe that.
What makes it better than, say, Sacramento or San Jose or even L.A.?
Well, we have a national accreditation. We're the largest municipal law enforcement agency in California to be accredited.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work. There's a lot of audits, a lot of inspections, but also the training we provide to our officers, the culture that we have here, and I believe the level of supervision and leadership we have in the organization.
I do want to get into this gang stuff, this news conference yesterday. We only have about 30 seconds. I want to take the break and then come back and talk about that, because I want to put the photos up and get into this, because, this is pretty scary stuff. You guys seizing all these weapons. Chief Dyer is here. Jerry Dyer, he is the police chief of the city of Fresno, has been since 2001, pushing the telephone number hard this morning, ladies and gentlemen. 436-MeTV, option 11. Do turn down the sound. By the way, this is not tape. We're live. Back in just a moment.
Don't you ever hit me again!
Chief, I think we got a hit on our hands.
MeTV Fresno, now on Comcast Channel 187.
Back here with Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer on our program for the first time here on Connect with Me, 436-MeTV, option 11. Anything you want to call in about within reason, ask your question, do turn down the sound. I want to put a couple of pictures up. Let's just put all three of them up, and you can leave them up there while we're talking. There you are yesterday at the news conference, some of the weapons in front of you that were seized. You know, I look at this, and I was thinking about this yesterday. Not that you shouldn't have the news conference, but looking at all these guns, and these guns are illegal. They're handmade, from what you said yesterday. They're in the hands of the wrong people, gangs that want to hurt people in the city. It's a scary thing to listen to your news conference, even.
Yeah, it's reality, and I believe that people need to know the reality of the community without having fear. And you know, these guns are taken off the streets in our community out of the hands of people that should not have those guns.
Let's take a call here. Good morning, you're on with Chief Dyer. What's your question?
Yes. Well, I want to commend them, first of all, because I think they're doing a terrific job. And also, I need to remind people that we are the eyes and ears of our police department. And without community involvement, their hands are tied behind their back.
Yeah. Do you have a question for the chief?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
How long does he intend to stay in office? Because I hope it's a long time for our state, but I know for his personal and his family, they're probably ready for him to retire.
Well, first off, thank you for the compliment about and the support of our agency. It is folks like you that help us to do our job, because you are the eyes and the ears for us. And in terms of staying in office, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I have not lost that passion for keeping citizens safe, and I'm going to let the good Lord make that decision. When I'm no longer effective, then I'll step away from the position.
Okay, another call. Good morning, you're on Connect with Me. What's your question, caller?
Hi, my question is, how come every cop shooting has been justified? Every single one of them.
Okay.
Okay. Well, when you say justified, there's a criminal standard that has to be met in order for a shooting to be considered justified. That decision's not made by the police department. It's made by the district attorney's office. They review the case just like they do any and other cases that they receive. But I think it's important to remember that it's the decision as to whether a shooting is justified is based on the facts that are present at that time. And so that decision is made from an objective body, the district attorney's office. And again, we said earlier in the show about the difficulties that the officers face in making those split-second decisions based on the facts that they have at the time. I'm not the one to make that decision whether a shooting is justified. I do make a decision whether or not that shooting is within department policy. And there's a lot of things that occur when officers are involved in shootings after the fact that citizens perhaps are not aware of, in terms of additional training or corrective behavior that we take.
All right, another call. Good morning, you're on Connect with Me, caller. What's your question?
I want to talk with the chief.
Yeah, go ahead. He can hear you. Go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, the thing is this, man. People don't understand that, Fresno PD, man, they do a good job. They face a lot of people that's on these methamphetamine, drugs and stuff like that. And Fresno PD, man, they need more credit. They get out here in 100-degree heat. They do their job. That's a good thing, man. A lot of these officers, they don't understand what they go through with people that's mentally disturbed and stuff like that. They are good people.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and that is true. Until you've walked in the shoes of a police officer, whether it's in Fresno or any other city, and faced the dangers that they face and the complexity of the job, it's hard to gain an appreciation for what the officers go through on a nightly basis. And I do appreciate that. But at the same time, my role as a police chief is to make sure that we have good standards in place, support the officers, and to go out and to ensure that they're doing their job appropriately. And I want to thank you for those compliments, because sometimes the officers do not feel appreciated because of criticism out there, and most of that criticism unwarranted.
Hey, but you're the first one to crack down on any officer that does not follow department policy, right? I mean, you're the first, because you're the first line of defense for these guys.
Yeah, I unfortunately terminate 5 to 6 police officers a year.
You do, really?
Employment, and we discipline others. We don't make those public, but when we have officers that do things that they shouldn't do, and we're not able to correct that behavior, or the policy violation is so great, we got to let them go, we do. But officers have an incredible job out there, a lot of decisions that they have to make, and unfortunately they have to make those decisions quickly and with limited facts.
And I would bet you my bottom dollar, and I've never been a police officer, never walked your shoes, but with the amount of pressure that faces an officer, I'll bet too that presents a lot of problems sometimes at home, and a lot of officers that maybe have personal problems. Maybe they're not spending enough time at home, they're always on the job. It can present a problem from the personal side and the professional side because of the pressure. Am I right?
Yeah, there's no shortage of stress in law enforcement, and you have officers that sometimes are not able to cope with that stress. We have a companion officer program and employee services, but the truth is oftentimes the family suffers. And
yeah,
I have a saying that it's although it's the officer that wears the badge, it is the family that carries the weight and the burden of that badge.
Yeah, another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What's your question?
I have a question. I went downtown the other night to pick up someone from Amtrak, and it was dark. I was by myself, and I am a senior citizen.
Okay.
Good car, no problems like that. For a moment, I thought an officer was behind me because I saw some blue lights and red lights in my window, and I started to pull over, but it wasn't. It was just a street light turning. Now, being downtown, if it had been an officer behind me, there's not a whole bunch of lit streets down there. How far could I go without getting in trouble going to a place that I felt safe?
That is a really good question, and what I have shared with people over the years is you can, within the speed limit and obeying the traffic laws, you can continue. If you don't feel it's a good place for you to pull over, it's too dark or not enough people around, you can travel a reasonable distance and pull over at, for example, a convenience store or someplace that's well lit or more populated, and officers understand that, and we do not have a problem with that as long as people don't try to evade the officer in doing so.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've always... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That elaborate on that just a little bit. Okay, what one person would consider reasonable, another person would consider more or less be reasonable to them. Could you give me, like, of course I wouldn't drive 5 miles. Yeah. But if I had to go like a mile or something until I felt comfortable or something like that, could he give me a ticket on that? Or
no,
okay.
That's reasonable, especially if you're not running stop signs or running red lights or exceeding the speed. There's not going to be a violation for that. And officers clearly understand that, especially when the officer stops. If you explain that to them, that the simple fact is that you're trying to just make sure you're safe.
Hey, I got a question for you before we go to break. Oftentimes I have forgotten and left my license in the trunk. Now, if you get pulled over and the officer comes up to your window and says, "Can I see your driver's license and insurance?" and you tell the officer, "Okay, it's in the trunk. Do you want to get it, or do I get out of the car and get it?" What's the standard procedure there? Because I've done that oftentimes. I haven't been pulled over, but I've left my license in the trunk.
Just as you've said. Some people say it's in my glove box. What I tell people is to tell the officers, I have my driver's license or registration in the glove box. Would you like me to get it?
Okay.
Or if it's in the trunk, it's in my trunk. Would you like me to get it for you?
Right.
And just so you're communicating with the officer, that's all.
But there's no standard procedure that the officer should get it, or...
No, it would be... In most cases, the officer would have you get out of the car and go back and get it, because it could be in a place that last thing we want is our officers sifting through trying to find it.
Yeah, okay. Another call quickly before we go to break. Caller, your question for Chief Dyer, what is it?
My question is, on the stop sign, on the buses, they flip out the stoplights and nobody crosses the road. They get right off on the sidewalk and go right in the apartments. And I was wondering why they need to put the stop signs out when nobody's crossing in front of you on the buses, school buses.
I have no idea how to answer that. Do you?
You're talking about when the school bus stops and then the stop sign comes out. The law is clear that you have to stop behind that vehicle, and there's good reason. And the reasons are that we had way too many children that were being hit by vehicles because cars would drive around them, and students would then cross in front of the bus to make their way to their home. So that's the law that's in place. We encourage people to stop. There are times when they do that. It's an automatic. The stop sign comes out. But the kids maybe go on the other side of the street. I don't know. But
and you can get a ticket for not stopping.
Yes, you can. It is a violation.
Yeah, and it's just like when you see an ambulance or a fire truck, pull over to the side to get out of the way. Let them by. We're going to take a commercial break. Chief Dyer is here, 436 MeTV option 11. Do call in. Please do turn down the sound. Back in a moment.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come into Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here with Chief Dyer on Connect with Me, and I'm glad people are calling in. 436 MeTV option 11. That means people are watching. Do turn down the sound. Chief Dyer, let's put those pictures up one more time from yesterday's news conference. Leave them up there for a minute, because I need to ask you about these gangs. Okay, so you mean to tell me that some of these guns are handmade?
Yeah, not very many, quite frankly. That is what the media picked up on. But we are starting to see gang members that are gaining knowledge in terms of how to put these guns together. And we haven't seen very many, but we're starting to see them. And that was the information that was shared yesterday. We also continue to see a lot of guns coming to us from out of state, various states that people transport them over. And then we also see what's called straw purchases, and the fact that a girlfriend of a gang member will go into a firearms store, purchase the gun, leave that store, and then provide it to that gang member. So all three of those, as well as stolen weapons that end up in the hands of gang members.
Another call. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. What's your question?
Hi. First, I would like to say that I respect all police officers from Fresno, Jerry Dyer, too. My question is, how does he feel about the shooting of unarmed suspects that happens pretty frequently here in Fresno?
Okay. That's a fair question. First off, I know that I've heard that question asked before. I do not like to see our officers involved in shootings, period. It takes a toll on them. It takes a toll on the family of the individual who was shot. There are going to be times, unfortunately, in law enforcement where an officer makes a very quick decision based on the movement of the suspect and some of the information that they have, where they end up firing their weapon, and it turns out that individual that they shot was not armed.
How often has that happened?
Well, not very often. The shooting we had last night, the suspect was standing over a victim armed with a knife,
right,
and was going to stab him.
But that's a
according to
weapon.
witness.
The knife is a weapon, so...
Yeah, and we've had 4 shootings this year. In the first shooting, the suspect was armed with a gun, turned on the officer. The second one was a female who was armed with 2 knives and came at the officer, was in a few feet when they shot. Another one was similar with a knife that was pulled on an officer within about 2 feet of them and held the knife over their head in a threatening manner. And then the one last night. So all 4 incidents, the suspects were armed, 1 with a firearm, 3 with a knife. And in 3 of those incidents, the officer felt they were threatened. In one of them, the officers felt that the citizen was being threatened, and that was last night. So it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it garners a lot of media attention, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to look at what the officer's state of mind is at the time they made the decision to use deadly force.
Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Caller, what's your question?
Hi, my name's Erica, and my husband and I were wondering what Fresno PD are doing regarding all the red light runners, especially around Herndon and Blackstone.
That's a great question. Because, you know what? How often do you see it, ma'am? Because I see it all the time. I drive by there a lot.
Daily.
Ma'am, are you there?
Yes, daily.
Yes. Daily. And I often wonder to myself, Chief Dyer, where is the Fresno PD? Why aren't they here now?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's really become... It's almost a joke. I see this almost on a daily basis, too. Red light runners, and you can kill someone.
Yes.
A car is... I mean, go ahead. I'll let you answer.
I think we have to look back. In 2002, we had the lowest ratio of traffic officers of anyone in the state, with 20 traffic officers. We were able to nearly quadruple the size of our traffic unit. Today, we've lost some of those. We have about 65 traffic officers. They write an enormous amount of citations. But I think we forgot where we came from. Back in 2002, we had 52 people killed in traffic collisions in our city.
Red light runners?
Red light, speeding, unsafe turns. Today, again, that was 52 for the year. We're almost 6 months through the year, and we have 14 today. So we've made a lot of progress, but there are still a lot of people out there that just do not obey traffic laws, which is why we have to continually write tickets.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Your question, please.
Hello.
Yeah, caller, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I wanted to know when there's a shooting in Fresno, you know, officers are shooting. Who decides whether the officer is paid or not?
In terms of after an officer involved shooting, you'll hear me say or somebody say that they're on administrative leave with pay. The decision is really clear, and it's made by the law, a Peace Officer Bill of Rights. We do not have the right to suspend an officer without pay, absent a process that they have to go through. That process is we have to conduct an investigation.
Called due process?
Due process, and if they are found to be in violation of a policy, then we notice them, and then they can be suspended if that's the appropriate level of discipline. And then they have an appeal right. So just because an officer is involved in an incident, to include a shooting, doesn't give us a right to put them off work without pay, because that investigation could take 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months. It wouldn't be fair to that officer to be at home for 6 months without pay simply because they made the decision to shoot somebody.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is very true. They have a hard enough job as it is, man. There's so much things happening here in Fresno, the city of Fresno. I mean, you know, I hate to go out on the street because I think they're going to shoot us or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's so many guns out there.
All right.
But thank you anyway for your answer.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for your input. I appreciate it very much. I want to get back to the gang thing. How many gangs do we have in Fresno? Is it too many to count?
No, we validate gang members. There's a criteria that you have to utilize. We have about 102 different gangs within our community.
The Bulldogs are the most prominent gang?
Bulldogs are the most prominent, but they have different sets within the Bulldogs. Generally, they're identified by a particular area or a particular street, and those are called sets within the Bulldog gang.
Do they fight amongst each other?
They fight against each other frequently, and then they fight against other gangs as well. So
Hispanic gangs, Asian gangs, they fight against them as well.
Primarily, what we see is that there's not a cross race that occurs within gangs. It does occasionally occur. It's usually Hispanic on Hispanic, black on black.
Interesting. You're on with Chief Dyer, caller. What's your question?
Hi, how are you doing? Good morning. A couple of years back, we live in Merced. There was a Visalia police officer, I believe it was a female, who was drunk, and she had wrecked a police car. I don't know if you remember that back then or not. But she was never ever arrested or anything like that. Could you please explain why? I mean, I understand you guys are police. I understand that everything that you guys go to is bad. Okay, I respect that. I really do. Okay, but this I didn't feel was right. I mean, she was not booked. She was not anything. And that was in Selma? Was it? Linda? Visalia. I'm sorry, Visalia.
Okay.
By the airport.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know all the circumstances about that, but it's very clear whether an officer's on duty or off duty, and whether they're driving in a marked unit or their personal car. The rules of the road are clear. You cannot drive a vehicle when your blood alcohol level is above 0.08, and if you do, you have violated the vehicle code. And so I don't know the circumstances of that. I can tell you in Fresno, unfortunately, we've had to arrest our officers over the years off duty
for DUI,
for driving intoxicated, and not only do they face the consequences of the court, but they also face the consequences of the department in terms of a policy violation. And so, but I can't comment on that one because I don't know all the circumstances.
Right. But within your own department, you have the same problem. I mean, I'm not asking you to mention names, but is this a common thing where you may have to arrest your own for DUI?
And we have, unfortunately, over the years. And one thing we have to remember is we recruit from the human race, and human beings are fallible and make mistakes and go out there, and in some cases, we have to arrest our own.
Another call. Good morning, caller. You're on with Chief Dyer.
Good morning, Mr. Mellis and Chief. I just had a quick question for the Chief. Has he seen the use of any plastic guns on the street made from 3D printers? And does he expect to, now that we know that they are in fact making guns by themselves from parts online? And I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you.
Yeah, we do see different types of guns out there on the street that some of them are homemade, some of them are broken down type guns. We don't see a lot of the plastic type guns. We see replica type guns out there on our streets where people have done robberies and so forth with those. But most of the guns we see are real live firearms.
Good morning, caller. Quickly, what's your question to Chief Dyer?
Hi, I had just spoke to you guys, but my connection was lost. He commented on the shooting of the suspect last night that had a knife. But my question is, what about non-lethal force? They have tasers, batons, mace, and vests. So how would you feel that it's justified shooting somebody with a knife?
Yeah.
And both officers fired at the dude and killed him. So it's kind of, I mean, come on.
Thank you.
I'll give you a good illustration. We had an incident here not too long ago where individual was armed with 2 knives and came at the officers. The officer used their taser. The taser had a minimal effect, and that person continued to advance on the officer with both of those knives. And unfortunately, they had to shoot that individual.
Was that the female suspect?
Yes.
Out by Fresno State? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And the taser is not 100% accurate. And what an officer would not want to do is to rely upon a taser. For example, last night, try to tase that individual. And mind you, taser's only effective if you got to be within a certain proximity. These officers were not within that proximity at the time. But can you imagine the officer using a taser and the taser having no effect, and that suspect then killing his brother, and that officer having to live with that the rest of their life? That's why officers have a difficult job.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we stop the threat and whatever it takes to stop that threat immediately. Sometimes it is a taser, sometimes it is a baton, but unfortunately sometimes it has to be a firearm.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Chief Dyer. Do call in at 436 MeTV option 11. Do turn down the sound, remember, when you call in. Back in just a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high-efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
Back here with Chief Dyer, and I want to get back to the issue of gangs, because I keep focusing on that, and I know we've talked about this sporadically throughout the show, but so far this year, correct me if I'm wrong, 81 shootings that have involved gangs this year. I believe 17 of those individuals have died as a result of those shootings. So the gangs are after what? Is it drugs? Is it money? Is it both? How big a problem is it compared to, say, years ago when the Violent Crime Suppression Unit when they were prowling the streets and trying to crack down on these gangs?
Well, I think it's in terms of the progress we've made. I'll give you a good example. In the last 3 years, violent crime's gone down 4%, 6%, and 7%, and this year we're down 12%. Gang shootings are down right now 10% in our city from last year. So we're making a lot of progress, but we still have gangs out there armed with guns. And we continue to have suppression efforts, operations that are occurring on a nightly basis, search warrants that we're serving on gang members, traffic stops that we're making in those neighborhoods that have a propensity for violence. And so we're making great strides, but we still have a tremendous gang problem in our community.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What's your question?
I don't have a question. I have a statement.
Okay,
I
quickly.
just want to say that the police, what's his name?
Chief Dyer.
Jerry?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here. Go ahead.
I think he's the best chief of police here in Fresno. I think he's doing a good job with these gangs and stuff. And I just want to say, without him, I don't think Fresno would be the same. Yeah. I mean, it probably run ragged, but I think he's very good.
Well, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you.
Police to stop all this crime.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you for those comments.
So this gang problem, you're going to continue to make these gang sweeps with the MAGIC, the Violent Crime Impact Teams?
As well as our street violence section is it's something that a lot of folks don't know. In years past,
what is that?
Years past, when you would have a shooting, a robbery, or something of that nature, absent a homicide, there'd be a report taken. They would go to the investigators. They would follow up on that case, try to find out who did the shooting or the robbery. It's not like that anymore. We have a 24/7 street violence section. They respond to every shooting, every stabbing, every commercial type robbery. And their purpose is not only to find out who did it, but to make sure that we're not having retaliation, to make sure that we're doing these operations and keeping gang members on their toes. And that's why we've seen the incredible impact in terms of gang violence in our city, because of what the street violence section is doing in combination with the Violent Crime Impact Team and MAGIC.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, you were talking about the gang violence. Now, does all the chiefs, including Chief Dyer, get together with these gangs that are out in the streets?
Okay.
Great question. In fact, I did this week. I met with 19 gang members. They are considered to be the most violent, active, and influential in their particular gang.
Where did you meet with them?
I met with them at a church, along with people from the U.S. Attorney's Office, district attorneys, service providers, some of our clergy, and it's called Ceasefire. and we do that about every 6 to 8 weeks. We bring in, the most active, violent, influential gang members in a particular gang, and we have a conversation with them for about an hour. And not only do we plead with them to stop the violence, but we share with them some of the things that have occurred in our community. We also then bring in service providers and get them to take advantage of some of the things that are available to them, whether it's tattoo removal, job placement, job skills, getting them connected with the church. We do those things quietly behind the scenes. What people hear about is our enforcement operations. What they don't hear about is those things we do through Ceasefire as part of our Mayor's Gang Prevention Initiative.
You don't hear about Ceasefire at all. So how many gang members show up at this church?
We generally will bring in about 20 to each setting.
Some of the most violent offenders?
These are individuals that we know to have been involved in a lot of violence, shootings, but they're active within their gang and they have great influence. And the hope is that they will take that influence in a positive way and get people to put down the guns. And we've had some great successes.
What's their reaction?
Some of them will, quite frankly, will ignore the message, but I say most of those individuals that we communicate with try to take advantage of the opportunities to change. And that's refreshing because you really have to approach gangs on two fronts. One is the hammer, the enforcement efforts, but you also have to do it from a intervention stance, and that is to try to get these individuals out of that gang lifestyle and teach them that there is a different way of living a life that they're not used to and they didn't grow up with.
Why are they so violent? Why are they fighting? Why are they killing? Is it drugs? Is it money? Or is it both?
Drugs is a motivator. Money is a motivator. Pride is the most motivator, because
meaning
pride in the sense that if somebody looks at them wrong, if somebody tries to take their girlfriend, if somebody disrespects them in some fashion, that's what prompts a lot of these types of shootings, because they have to prove themselves.
And do they have outside influence from gangs from, say, Los Angeles, San Jose?
Generally not. The gangs that we face in Fresno are homegrown.
Okay.
These are people that have grown up in this community, which is a sad statement, quite frankly, because we've had every opportunity to keep them from being in a gang.
Good morning, caller. What's your question for Chief Dyer?
Yes, two quick questions. Since police departments serve the community and not the community serving the police department, why not have a citizens advisory commission reviewing police shootings? And second, is there a possibility of expanding non-sworn officers to allow tasks that they could perform, increase the tasks that they could perform, reducing the cost to the police department? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was you were talking about an advisory board or a police commission, because those are two different things. I do have a chief's advisory board, people from the community that advise me on matters. But if you're speaking about civilian oversight, we have civilian oversight in the form of a independent police auditor that works for the city manager, and that person has complete, total access to all of our internal investigations, officer-involved shootings. They're independent from us, and they have oversight in the sense that they make recommendations in terms of things that they believe need to be changed in the organization, in the department, regarding
And are
use
you
of
open
force.
to change?
Not only open to change, we make change.
You make changes.
Daily. And we have to.
Another call? Okay. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. What's your question for Chief Dyer?
Yes, I would like to say that I'm very sorry for what happened to the officers, and I think that's just really bad. You know, I have a lot of respect for the police department, and I think he's doing a great job. So could you please tell him that I'm sorry? My name is Donna Boston. I live in Orange Cove, California.
Okay.
And
Well, he can hear you.
It hurt my heart to hear about what happened to them officers.
Well, thank you,
And I
Donna.
hope they get the dirt bags that did it and stick their butts in prison for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Well, Donna, thank you very, very much. And, you know, as I go out throughout the week, John, and visit various places out in the community, we hear from a lot of citizens. They are so grateful for the officers. That's not to mean that we don't do things from time to time we shouldn't do. But we really try hard to be good public servants.
I know we have to go to break, but I'm going to ask you this, because when I first came to Fresno, we had the Violent Crime Suppression Unit. Are the gang units that are out there now, the forces that we just mentioned, are they more effective than, say, the VCSU was back in the 90s?
Well, I don't think you can perhaps distinguish the difference. The Violent Crime Impact Team we have today is actually larger than what the Violent Crime Suppression Unit was.
VCSU had, what, 30 officers, roughly speaking?
And we have 7 sergeants and 42 officers assigned to that today.
Wow.
Similar attire, but the different approach and style in terms of how we police. We're more focused.
It's a more modern style. Well, remember, the VCSU gained national attention in the New York Times.
Right. And you know, back then it was desperate measures for desperate times. We were a city that were out of control. We're not like that today. We were having upwards of close to 100 murders a year back then. We're a much
We've
different
got like
city.
23 now, right?
Yes, we're
something like
24 as of last night. We're a much
Okay.
different city.
All right. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to let Chief Dyer know that I personally would like to thank him for his public service message that he did for men's health care. And also I would like to suggest to him that I hope that he considers running for public office sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's something that we would all benefit from, the same as everybody has benefited from his term in office as police chief. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your confidence in me and support, and you know, that's always going to be a consideration in my future. But for now, I'm very satisfied with being the police chief of this this department.
I better take a break before Lauren over here pulls out her concealed weapons permit. No, I'm just kidding. 436 MeTV, option 11. Do call in. Chief Dyer is here. We're back in just a moment.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Hey, we're back here with Chief Dyer, and I want, look, some new officers were sworn in just not more than a month ago, right? Let's roll that videotape. It took place at City Hall. I want you to go through this, Chief, because 30 new cadets, I believe, were hired. Is that true? And if I'm not mistaken, 12 new officers? Right. Am I wrong about the numbers?
Yeah, we had, at that time, we had 19 police officers and 30 police cadets.
Okay. Now, the cadets are not sworn officers, right?
Right. The police cadets are the ones that go out into the field. They take some of the calls that, for example, burglaries and auto thefts and vehicle burglaries where the suspect is not there, but they do the investigative work, the report, process the scene for evidence, and they offer that public service, the personal service to those victims. The police officers are replacement officers. We went from 849 police officers down to under 700 police officers in our city. We are now trying to build back up to 717, but
you're at 708 right now, right?
707 officers as of yesterday.
Okay. And you want 800. I know the budget, the proposed budget is out $1 billion. You like to see 800 officers on our streets.
I believe we need to work towards 800 police officers. Remember, we were 849 5 years ago. Our city has grown, but we need to work towards building our department back to 800 and replacing some of the civilians. Now, I know in terms of funding, that's going to take some time, but that should be our strategic plan.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Well, you were on the air. Yeah, and so are we moving in the right direction in getting those officers?
Well, we've stabilized as a city. We are no longer reducing our sworn force or non-sworn force, which is a good sign. That's the first step, and we are starting to hire some of the officers that we need to hire, and it's going to be a process of rebuilding.
All right, let me go down some of the overall crime in Fresno down 12.7%, property crime down 9.7%, car thefts down 20.3%. Remember, we were the car capital Actually, we were the capital of the car thieves in the entire nation. Were we not at one time?
We were.
Okay. But the question that I have is, the perception that people out there in the community, do they feel safe?
Well, our goal is not only to make people safe, but to help people feel safe. Sometimes a lot of that is out of our control because of the media, quite frankly. I can remember the day when you were in
at
the media.
KMPH, Fox 26? Okay, go ahead.
When there were minimal newscasts. But today, there's 4 o'clock news and 4:30 and 5 and 6. So if an incident occurs, not to mention the media alerts, people are going to know about that shooting.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chief Dyer, did you ever find that machine gun that you lost on the trunk lid, the M4 H&K back in the day?
No, that was probably back. You got a heck of a memory. That was probably close to 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I believe. That was out-of-town SWAT training, and
you lost a machine gun?
Well, unfortunately, we were out of town, and there was an incident that occurred where an officer had it and placed it up on the hood of the vehicles we were unloading.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I was the supervisor and responsible for that. So,
okay.
Yeah, that was about 30, maybe 25 years ago.
You survived it.
Survived it, yeah. Yeah, we learned a valuable lesson on that.
Okay, thank you for the call. Okay, I want to take you back to 2011, if my memory serves me correctly. You announced your retirement. In fact, I saw the thing on live television, and you were very emotional, as you should be. You've devoted a lot of time and effort and most of your life to the Fresno PD. And then the city of Fresno, they couldn't find anybody to replace you. Of course, I was available. I didn't want the job. I couldn't take the job. And then suddenly you came back. So now, all of a sudden, you're getting all this criticism. Well, gee, you retired, you're getting your retirement money, and you came back as chief, and you're getting paid. Hey, if I retired and somebody begged me to come back, I'd come back too. Yeah. I mean, so maybe you can address that.
Well, first off, no one begged me to come back, and when I made the decision that I was going to leave, I was not going to just simply retire, but do other things in life.
Right.
And what folks think is that I did retire and I'm drawing my retirement and the city's paying me. That's not true.
Okay.
I went right back into the retirement system just as I had never left. I'm getting one income, and that is my.
Let me just say this right now, and I'm not saying it because you're sitting here. I don't see anybody replacing you. And I know I've said it before, everybody is replaceable, but I can't envision anybody else being police chief with the job that you've done, keeping the crime down, keeping the gangs in check. I'm sorry, I don't see anybody else doing it, Jerry.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, John. I do believe there is someone in our organization that at some point in time will be ready and prepared to take over for me. And when that time comes, I believe it will be very clear to me, and hopefully it'll be very clear to the city manager and the mayor.
Well, I don't know about that. Good morning, you're on Connect with Me. What's your question?
Yeah, I have a statement for the Chief Dyer. I don't know if the program is alive right now, but I have a statement for him.
Okay, go ahead. Quick.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the Chief Dyer, because he's trying to take care of our community. I am a Hispanic. I can recognize him that he's doing a really good job. I feel proud of him, Not every chief everywhere is taking care of our community like him. I would like to say thank you for doing a great job. And I would like to let him know too that I never have drunk. I'm a good driver, just to give you a little background about me. But I know he's doing a great job, but some people or some police at his department, I was driving one night, I went to hang out, and as I say, I never drunk, but one night I was hanging out. When I was coming back home, I got a stop from 2 motorcycle cops, and they stopped me and do a test looking for what drunk. So
as I say, I never get drunk, but what I see, then what they were doing at me, they were doing over and over a test. You know, they used to do a finger test to see if you're drunk, and they overdoing, take, you know, a long time trying to find if I was drunk. I was not drunk, but anyway, they were doing it. Then they realized that I was not drunk. They say, okay, we stopped you because you didn't do a good, really stop at to make across the street, which was not true. But
All right,
what I realized.
We're short on time. I apologize to cut off. Let the chief respond because we're really short on time. We're almost out of time, as a matter of fact. So he's talking about the traffic stop.
Yeah, first I appreciate your compliments. And in terms of our traffic officers, you know, one of the things that contributes a lot to fatal collisions in our city is people driving intoxicated. So they take that very seriously.
Yeah.
When people have driving, you know, they're not driving in a very good manner and it's erratic, then they will stop and detain the driver and try to determine if, in fact, they have objective symptoms of being drunk.
I will get back to Chief Dyer and the police chief and what a great job you have done over the course of the last 13 years in keeping our city safe. But it's this persona that you project over the city, of being a tough guy, but you not only walk the walk, you talk the talk, and you're a tough guy, and you back it up with, you back up everything that you say, you back up. And is that the reason perhaps for your success, is that whatever you say you're going to do, you do it?
Well, I try to be true to my word, John, in everything that I do, and it's important that, you know, trust is what we operate in our department. And the last thing I want to do is anything that's going to violate that trust that the community has in me or this department. And our community really relies on us to keep them safe.
Would you agree that your persona is part of who you are and how you project that across the community and why people want you to stay?
Well, I try to be who I am. I try honestly not to put on an air of being somebody I'm not. And when I speak, I try to speak from the heart, and I think people appreciate that.
Will you run for mayor when you retire?
You know, I don't know. I've always left that door open, and I've never tried to close it. And if that opportunity arises, and I feel that that's where God's leading me, then that's what will happen.
Political office could be in your future. You never know.
It could be, and it might not be, but we'll leave that door open.
How much longer for police chief for you?
It depends. You know, we have a system where we can stay 10 years in the drop program.
Right.
I've been in that system for 5. So at most I can stay 5 unless something happens where, you know, there's a contract outside of that. But I try not to look too far ahead because, you know, when you look too far ahead, you kind of forget where you're at today. And I try to focus on where we're at today as an organization.
Yeah. And we got 30 seconds left, and just quickly in closing here, I appreciate you coming by. I know how busy you are, and you don't do too many talk shows anymore, do you?
I do periodically, depending on the issue or the topic. I try to do as much as I can in terms of public appearances, television, radio. It just depends. You know, there's only so much time in the day. I want to make sure I spend it in the right way and be a good steward of my time.
Yeah. How many hours you putting in a day?
Well, yesterday was 18 hours. It was a long day.
Yeah.
But most days are somewhere around 12 to 13 hours.
I sure appreciate your time, Chief Dyer.
Thank you,
You know, I wish you would come back.
Invite me back. I'll be back.
Okay. All right. Chief
Thank you,
Jerry
John.
Dyer here of Fresno, and that's going to do it for our edition of Connect With Me on Comcast, Channel 187 and 43.6. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Same time, same bat channel. Have a great day.
You ready, Bo? Let's go. Dr. Shields, activated, Mr. Sulu. Automatic, sir. And we're pushing to the limit.
Situation critical.
Base of action. Can't break loose.
Peace or utter destruction. It's up to you.
Star Trek, Saturdays at 9, 8 Central on MeTV. Brought to you by Ventura TV.